Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Prime News. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Well, welcome to the show. Disturbing new video tonight, Jen, has been released from Texas Border Patrol, along with a new warning about just how brazen the cartels have become. We're going to talk to a Texas DPS lieutenant, along with a mom who unfortunately lost her daughter to a fentanyl overdose. Plus, a different kind of immigration crisis may be in the works as Russia's war with Ukraine reaches a 1-month mark. Nearly 4 million people now have fled from Ukraine so far. How many can we expect to come to the U.S.? A former immigration special agent is here tonight for insight. But first, what's on tonight's Prime News, Jen?
Well, Russia is committing war crimes. That announcement came today from Secretary of State Antony Blinken. The assessment is based in part on both U.S. intelligence and public information. Plus, Ukrainian forces are taking back territory. According to U.S. officials, a counterattack north and west of Kyiv is making headway. Today, Russian troops were located about 34 miles outside of the city. Yesterday, they were just about 15 miles out. And joining us now from Kyiv is Newsmax correspondent Sarah Williamson. Sarah, tell us what it's like there on the ground at this moment.
Well, Jen and Lindsay, that is exactly right. The Ukrainian military has made some huge movements in the northwest of the country, with the Ukrainian military completely encircling the Russian troops in the areas of Bucha, Hostomel and Irpin. The Bucha City Council announced this earlier today, saying that they have been tightening their grip on the Russian forces and moving that circle closer and closer inwards. As you mentioned, they've now moved them to be 34 miles away from this Kyiv city centre, which is a lot further away than what it was yesterday. The Irpin mayor of that city also announced today that they have now captured back 80% of that city. Now, this is a city that has been heavily bombarded over the last few weeks, with people not being able to have access to clean drinking water, to food, and a lot of people living inside of their bomb shelters just to be able to escape the bombardment that they have been under. And most people have been evacuated from this city now, with only 6,000 people left in the city. This also yesterday as well, just right next to these cities, still in that northwestern area of the Kyiv Oblast, was the city of Makariv, which was first announced liberated by the Ukrainian army. So this area, which was one of the most heavily hit areas in the country, especially most heavily hit areas up north, is now seeing a lot of success, with the Ukrainian military really aiming their offensive towards encircling these Russian troops and really gaining a lot of ground back and gaining a lot of positive momentum as we move forward into that 1-month mark of this war.
Sarah, before we let you go, as you do move into that 1-month mark, what is the spirit of the Ukrainians? We've seen their resiliency. You see that sustained still?
Absolutely. There is so much resilience among the people here. I went out today and spoke to a number of people here on the streets. I spoke to some civilians, some women who actually owned businesses beforehand and were just business owners who, instead of leaving and fleeing the city, decided that they were going to stay and offer their services to the army in whatever way they could, in ways of bringing in and helping with supplying tactical medical supplies, or just cooking food for them and doing those sort of volunteer work that they could. These are people that would rather serve their country in any way, shape or form instead of actually leaving. So, and even as they get closer and closer to, as people were saying that the Russian military were getting closer and closer, they still had no intention of ever fleeing. They say that this is their home and this is where they plan on staying. So there is, as this momentum grows with the Russian military, the spirits still continue to lift with the Ukrainian people.
Yeah, it seems to be something that we're seeing throughout the country, Sarah, from Odessa to Kyiv, where you are. Sarah Williamson in Kyiv, thank you so much and stay safe.
Well, meanwhile, President Biden is in Europe preparing for talks with other world leaders tomorrow, Jen. Foreign correspondent Alex Sally is in Brussels. Alex.
President Biden arriving in Brussels tonight ahead of high-stakes meetings on Thursday that could have a significant impact concerning Russia's war on Ukraine. The president will start the day at NATO headquarters, where the primary topic will be determining what type of assistance will be provided to Kyiv. Ukrainian President Zelensky will be participating in those talks in some manner, likely reiterating his calls for missile defense systems, fighter jets, and of course, a no-fly zone. NATO allies have been hesitant to escalate tensions with Russia, but they did announce earlier they would be supplying Ukraine with equipment to deter cyber, biochemical, radiological, and even nuclear threats. And then there's the conversation surrounding sanctions, which will likely be the main subject of the G7 and European Commission meetings. Western allies are somewhat divided on how to approach, with some members wanting to add more pressure on Moscow and others wanting to pause the sanctions in order to reassess. But China will be at the center of these conversations, as many leaders believe Beijing continues to walk the fence on the conflict, sometimes condemning the attack, while at the same time continuing economic ties. This amid fears that China could assist Russia in curbing sanctions or even providing military support, both things Beijing has rejected up to this point. Now, this trip was billed as being an effort to get the world on the same page in standing up to Russia's aggression, and we should get a better idea of where each nation stands at the end of the day Thursday. Jen, Lindsay.
Alex Salvi, appreciate your reporting in Brussels. Thank you.
Joining us now for some insight is former Michigan Congressman and Ambassador to the Netherlands, Pete Hoekstra. Ambassador, thanks for joining us tonight.
Great to be with you. Thank you.